Hi, my name is Remy Burley, and today I wanted to create a video explaining to you how I assess movement during a saddle fitting. So today, this horse we have is named Asher. He's owned by Brie Simpson, who is an equine behaviorist, and she has her business PATH Equestrian. So Asher has been trained pretty much entirely, retrained pretty much entirely with positive reinforcement. But he currently isn't being ridden because he still has some residual anxiety issues that he needs to work through. So we won't be mounting a rider today, but usually we would always want to mount the rider during a saddle fitting because rider fit is 50% of the puzzle, and how the rider sits on the horse really impacts how the saddle fits on the horse. So there we started the session with him just walking around, doing some targeting. Currently, this saddle, the tree fits him, but there is no adjustment in the panels. So I would adjust for asymmetry, but first I put the saddle on the horse without any adjustments just to see what happens, and then we can adjust from there after what I see in the dynamic portion of the assessment. I'm actually going to insert a video I took with him wearing the saddle gauge to tell you what the specification of the saddle tree is, just so that you can have that underlying information that the tree already does fit him. Okay, so this horse is Asher, owned by Brie Simpson. And in this saddle, okay, he's moving a lot, so the pendulum's swinging, but we have a 17-inch seat, a 2-inch hind gusset, a semi-curved tree, a D width panel height, and a 2U head plate. So because I distribute for WOW, which is a modular saddle with standardized pieces, we can actually use this saddle gauge to understand what specification we need for the saddle before it's even on the horse. So just from what I've observed with that little bit of movement at the start, as well as what I saw when I was using the saddle gauge, I was able to make a rough estimate as to what type of adjustment this horse needs for the saddle to sit more balanced and symmetrically on his back. He's what we might call a right hind drive horse, which just means that his right hind leg is slightly stronger and also slightly bigger, and that goes along with the left shoulder being slightly more developed and further back on his body. So I was able to adjust basic adjustment for the balance and for this asymmetry, and now we have him in movement. So this horse is on the reverse round pen. He's already been trained to use the reverse round pen, and we're just doing walk and trot. Trot is the most important gait for a saddle fit assessment, at least at the start, because it's the best gait for allowing us to see how the horse bends through the neck, through the poll, and through the body. As well as it's the easiest for us as saddle fitters to see the rider's balance. We also have this kind of smaller circle because, again, we need to be able to see that bend and the balance in the trot. This goes kind of against what we would want in an intrinsic session, but when I'm doing saddle fitting, I actually want a very consistent trot or a consistent movement, because what I'm trying to do is assess how the saddle impacts the movement rather than other affordances, so that I can see, oh, this little adjustment I did really freed up the shoulder or really freed up the poll or allowed the horse to move more forward or with more impulsion. So that's why we have this reverse round pen set up, so that we can really have this consistent walk and trot movement. And as you could see me do just there, that was me going and looking from behind to see where the saddle's sitting. Is it sitting straight? Is it moving to the side? And it looked pretty good. So I decided to go the other way. So previously, I would say that was a really nice, neutral looking trot when we were going the other direction. His head was in a kind of relaxed but forward position. He was able to bend to the inside, making a clear, free bend throughout his whole body, and able to just have quite a nice trot. Now, when we switch to the other direction, it's kind of a different story. You can see that his head is at a higher posture, which typically when I'm doing saddle fitting means that the horse is restricted in the bend through the neck or the pole, which can be impacted by the symmetry and how the saddle is sitting on that shoulder. And he's also doing this shaking thing, which is something that's kind of abnormal for him. Especially something that I was noting was the fact that his hind end was moving on a different track than his front end, which isn't something we're looking for here. It's not something he was trained to do. So those are kind of red flags for me as of the saddle fit. Because again, we're not looking for a lot of movement variability here. I'm looking for something very consistent and neutral, and we can play with that later after we know that the saddle fits or not. So I might be tempted right off the bat to blame that on the saddle. However, we did have him go around a few times without the saddle just to get a baseline for what his movement looks like. And as you'll see, he does the same type of movement on this direction without the saddle. So that tells me that this isn't a saddle issue, but an issue with his own movement toolkit, that he seems to not be able to, or maybe just not on this day or in this context, be able to bend to the inside in the trot in this direction. So that's something that I would want to play with outside of the saddle fitting. But it's not really something I can fix with just saddle fit. So from what I saw previously, I could conclude that yes, this saddle fits and is adjusted properly. And it's the issue that we saw in the trot to the right wasn't something that I could fix with the saddle. But I asked if I could work with him on the reverse round pen, because I've actually never worked with a horse that has been, I guess you could say, fully trained in traditional positive reinforcement use of the reverse round pen. So I wanted to play with it, and yeah, it was really cool. And I just have, I guess, some closing thoughts about how I look at movement during a saddle fitting. So I'm personally not really looking at the movement through musculoskeletal terms. I know I've used a lot of anatomy words previously, but I'm looking more for the feeling of or the quality of the movement. I'm looking for movement that is supple, elastic, fluid, you could say relaxed, but not really, elastic, loose, those types of words. I'm also, when I have riders mounted and they're riding, I ask them to have a loose rein. And to try not to shape the horse too much, because again, I want to see what movement the horse naturally makes. Viewing the saddle as the primary affordance that I'm using when I'm doing saddle fitting instead of aids or the environment. And also, I'm very careful with how I speak about asymmetry with my clients. I know a lot of saddle fitters, we take the measurements, but because of course asymmetry influences how we fit the saddle. But it's not, I of course mention it as well, like the importance of an asymmetrical adjustment, but I'm not pathologizing asymmetry. I'm not looking at asymmetry as the deciding factor of how sound or well developed the horse is or those types of things, because all horses, almost every single horse is asymmetrical. It's very, very rare that you get horses that are symmetrical. And even then, it's within a few millimeters of the other side of their body. So I'm just careful with how I phrase the way that I talk about movement and health of horses and also of riders. I think that's everything for this video. I think it would be cool in the future to get a different video where the rider's mounted and I can take you through how the movement changes when I adjust the saddle in real time. But for now, I think this video has served its purpose in explaining to you how I assess movement during a saddle fitting and what my kind of thought process is on that. So if you have any questions, please leave them below and I'm happy to respond. And thank you for watching. Bye.